Imagine for a moment a world where your video calls just stutter constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your cloud applications freeze up every few minutes. And accessing, critical market data takes so long it's practically useless.
Yeah,
It sounds like a business nightmare, right?
absolutely.
But what if I told you that the very foundation preventing all this chaos, the real unsung hero enabling every swift click, every seamless video conference, every instant data transfer, is often just a simple wire,
Hmm.
a cable, designed with incredible precision to carry your entire digital life, your business operations, your competitive edge.
Indeed. I mean, from the complex networks powering global enterprises right down to the smart devices in your home office, everything is connected.
Everything.
And at the heart of it all lies this often overlooked but utterly critical realm of data communications. We're
Yeah.
talking about the physical pathways, the literal wires and fibers that carry every single byte, every pixel, every crucial piece of business data you send or receive. They're really the arteries of our digital economy.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we unravel complex topics, distill insights from the best sources, and give you the shortcuts to being truly well-informed.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into the literal nuts and bolts of how data moves the crucial foundational world of network cabling.
Yeah.
It's a topic often hidden in plain sight, yet its strategic importance for any business leader or information systems professional, well, just can't be overstated.
And this deep dive is specially tailored for you, our future business leaders and information systems professionals, particularly those of you in BCIS 1347 at Tarleton State University's Dr. Sam Pack College of Business.
Right?
We'll be navigating Chapter 5, Cabling, from the CompTIA Network plus Guide to Networks, 10th edition by Jill West, along with insights from leading industry experts.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal here is really to blend that academic understanding with real-world tech applications, helping you master not just the what, but, more importantly, the why behind effective data communication infrastructure.
Our mission today is to demystify the cables that underpin our digital lives. We want to move beyond just which one is faster, to really understanding which one is smarter for your specific business needs.
Yeah, the strategic choice.
Exactly. We'll look at the fundamental characteristics of data transmission, explore the various types of cables and their connectors, and crucially, equip you with the knowledge to choose, install, and even troubleshoot them effectively.
Right.
This isn't just about wires. It's really about designing resilient, secure, and efficient communication solutions. That's a core skill, isn't it, for any professional developing a logical and physical network?
Absolutely fundamental. And before we go too deep, if you're finding value in these insights, please do us a quick favor. Like this deep dive, subscribe to the channel, and maybe share it with anyone who needs these insider tips to position themselves for a bright future in their chosen careers.
Yeah, your engagement really helps us continue bringing these essential discussions to you. And remember, for even more resources and deeper dive, always check the description below. We've put links there to additional materials we've curated to further your understanding and support your journey towards, say, industry certification.
Always check the description. Good stuff there.
Okay, let's unpack this with some core terminology that, honestly, every business leader and IT professional really needs to get their head around.
Mm-hmm.
We often hear terms like frequency, bandwidth, and throughput used maybe interchangeably, but they're critically distinct. Misunderstanding them can lead to some pretty poor business decisions.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's start with frequency. What is that, fundamentally?
Okay, frequency at its core refers to the number of times per second that an electrical signal can change its state. Think of it like going from a positive voltage to a negative one and back.
Right.
We measure this in hertz, but for network media, we're usually talking megahertz, or even gigahertz, gigahertz. It's like how quickly a light switch can flip on and off. This fundamental physical property of the transmission medium, it dictates the raw oscillatory capacity. It really influences the potential for data transfer. It's kind of the inherent speed limit of the road itself, you know?
So it's like how quickly a light can flicker, which limits how much information you can encode in those flickers. Okay.
Always nice.
Building on that, we have bandwidth. That's often the first thing people look at when they're, say, evaluating an internet plan.
That's right. Bandwidth is the theoretical maximum amount of data that could be transmitted over a given period. It's the advertised speed, right?
Yeah.
The one you see from your internet service provider.
Yeah, the up to speed.
Exactly, the up to speed. Measured in bits per second, BPS, megabits per second, MBPs, or gigabits per second, GBPS. Think of bandwidth as the maximum width of your data highway, maybe the total number of lanes available.
Okay.
It's the maximum capacity. But, and this is crucial insight for future business leaders, you have to distinguish this theoretical maximum from what you actually experience day to day. That difference. It can be a significant hidden cost or bottleneck.
And that's where throughput comes in, right?
Exactly.
If bandwidth is the promise,
Yeah.
what are the common things that sabotage that promise in the real world? And how does a business actually measure that difference?
Yeah. Throughput is the actual amount of data transmitted during a given period. And you're right, it is almost always less than the advertised bandwidth because of real-world limitations. So imagine that 1 gig internet plan an ISP advertises that's your bandwidth.
Right.
But if you're only consistently seeing, say, 500 millibs on a speed test, that's your throughput.
Okay.
The real insight for a business isn't just knowing the difference, but understanding how to diagnose that gap.
Right. Why is it lower?
Precisely. Is it your ISP not delivering? Is it internal network congestion? Maybe an underperforming device on your network? This diagnostic capability, well, it directly impacts your ability to hold vendors accountable, optimize your network resources, and protect your operational efficiency. Factors like device latency, network congestion, data retransmissions because of errors, or even misconfigured equipment can just dramatically slash your throughput.
Okay.
Oh, and a quick but critical reminder. Small b, MBPs means bits. Capital B, MBPs means bytes.
Right.
Don't mix them up when you're discussing network speeds versus file sizes. It's a really common but critical error in business communication.
That's a good tip. Okay, so even the best cables, they aren't immune to interference.
Nope.
So as we dive into designing and troubleshooting networks, let's look at these unseen forces that can degrade network performance. Let's start with noise. What is that?
Okay, noise refers to any unwanted interference that degrades the quality of a signal. We usually measure it in decibels or dB. This can come from, broadly, 2 primary sources. First, there's electromagnetic interference, EMI. This is external electrical signals coming from things like motors, fluorescent lights, power lines, even other data cables nearby. These are environmental factors.
Right, things outside the cable itself.
Exactly. Second, there's crosstalk. This is signal bleeding over between adjacent wires within a cable or between adjacent cables. It's like, imagine having 2 phone calls happening so close together you start hearing bits of the other conversation.
Yeah, confusing.
Very. And crosstalk has specific types we should know. Alien crosstalk, which occurs between different cables bundled together, say, in a conduit.
Right.
Then there's NICOS-T, near-end crosstalk, which is measured at the source end of the cable where the signal originates.
Right near the transmitter.
Yep. And FEXT, far-end crosstalk, measured at the destination end where the signal is received. Understanding these distinctions is actually really crucial for pinpointing the source of interference in complex networks.
The idea that one wire's conversation can just bleed into another, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So what's the clever engineering solution that combats this invisible chatter? And what does it mean for environments with a lot of electrical noise?
Well, the magic behind the twisted pairs in Ethernet cables is just that, the twisting. Each pair is twisted together, and this creates opposing magnetic fields. So any noise induced in one wire by external interference is effectively canceled out by the identical but opposite noise induced in its twisted partner.
Clever.
It really is. And the different twist rates for each pair prevent the wires from running perfectly parallel for too long, which dramatically reduces the overall interference picked up at the other end.
Okay.
This elegant solution is why copper twisted pair still dominates local networks. However, in really electrically noisy environments, think industrial facilities with heavy machinery, medical settings with specialized equipment, even crowded server rooms with dense cabling noise can still be a major challenge.
Right.
So for you, as future business leaders, this raises an important question. What are the environmental factors you need to assess before you select your cabling? This is key to ensuring signal integrity and avoiding costly data corruption or those frustrating intermittent network failures. This directly ties into your ability to formulate a robust risk assessment that's a critical skill outcome, ensuring network reliability in all sorts of operational contexts.
And beyond noise, signals also have to deal with distance, don't they?
They do.
That brings us to attenuation. It sounds a bit sci-fi, but it's a very real network challenge.
Yeah, attenuation is simply the loss of signal strength as it travels away from its source.
Okay.
Imagine shouting across a big auditorium. The further you are from the stage, the harder it is for your voice to be heard clearly, right? The message gets weaker.
Right.
Digital signals experience a similar weakening. To combat this, we use devices called repeaters. Now, a repeater isn't just an amplifier. It doesn't just boost everything, including noise. It actually regenerates the digital signal back to its original strength and form, effectively cleaning it up and restoring its integrity before sending it further down the line.
So it makes it like new again.
Exactly. This extends transmission distances without degrading quality, ensuring reliable communication over longer stretches. The strategic insight for network design here is knowing when and where to deploy repeaters to maximize your network reach without introducing new points of failure or unnecessary costs.
So what this means for reliable long-distance data is you basically can't just send a signal forever without giving it a boost.
Pretty much, yeah. Physics gets in the way.
And speaking of these invisible obstacles, let's talk latency and jitter, two terms that are particularly critical for real-time applications like video calls or VoIP.
Ah, yes. Latency and jitter. Very important. Latency is simply the delay between when data leaves its source and when it finally arrives at its destination.
The travel time.
The travel time, exactly. It's commonly measured by round-trip time, or RTT, the time it takes for a signal to go from point A to point B and back again. Common causes, well, device processing delays, network congestion like a traffic jam, or simply the physical distance the signal has to travel. Light can only move so fast, even in fiber.
Right.
Jitter, on the other hand, is the variation in packet arrival time. It's uneven delays. Imagine someone talking but pausing at random intervals during the conversation.
Annoying.
Very annoying, especially for real-time applications like video conferencing, voice calls, VoIP, or even online gaming, where consistent timing is absolutely paramount. That variation, that jitter, is what causes the stuttering and dropouts.
This brings up a really important question then. Why is low latency and minimal jitter so critical for modern business applications, especially when we talk about crucial operations?
Well, think about it. Consider a critical video conference with clients spread across the globe. A jerky, jittery connection could lead to miscommunication, frustration, maybe even lost opportunities.
Definitely.
Or think about more extreme examples. Remote surgical procedures, high-frequency stock trading, situations where every single millisecond counts.
Wow.
In these scenarios, high latency and jitter aren't just annoying, they can be business-critical failures. They could lead to lost revenue, frustrated customers, severe operational risks, maybe even legal liabilities. The hidden cost of poor network performance often isn't just wasted time. It's a direct hit to your competitive advantage and your brand reputation. Proper device configuration, optimized network design, and selecting quality cabling can significantly mitigate these issues. This directly impacts the timeliness and accuracy characteristics, fundamental aspects of effective data communication, and ultimately business success.
So beyond just the speed, the way data flows is crucial. Let's look at the traffic rules of data communication. We can start with the simplest one, simplex mode.
Okay, simplex. Think of it like a one-way street. Communication flows in only one direction. One device transmits, the other can only receive. There's no expectation of a reply on that same channel.
Like a radio broadcast.
Yeah, exactly. Traditional radio or TV broadcasts are perfect examples. You receive information, but you don't send it back over the airwaves. Or even your keyboard sending input to your computer that's simplex too. It's efficient for its specific purpose, but very limited for interactive applications.
So if simplex is a one-way street, what's the next step up for two-way communication?
That would be half-duplex. Half-duplex allows bidirectional communication, meaning both devices can transmit and receive, but only one device can do so at a time.
Ah, like walkie-talkies.
Perfect analogy, walkie-talkies. One person speaks, then releases the button to listen, and then the other person can speak.
Right.
This mode is useful in scenarios where simultaneous communication isn't strictly necessary, or maybe where detecting collisions when both try to transmit at once is part of the protocol, like in older Ethernet networks that used hubs. It's a step up from simplex, definitely, but still not truly simultaneous.
And for most modern networks, especially the ones driving business applications today, we're talking about full duplex. This seems to be the gold standard now.
Full duplex, or often just called duplex, is indeed the most efficient mode for modern networks. It allows simultaneous bidirectional transmission and reception.
Like a phone call.
Exactly like a telephone conversation.
Yeah.
Both parties can talk and listen at the same time without interrupting each other. Modern Ethernet networks, especially those using switches, predominantly operate in full duplex mode. This maximizes efficiency and performance, enabling much higher throughput.
Okay.
For network professionals, understanding these modes really helps you configure network connections correctly, making sure devices negotiate the right mode, and also troubleshoot communication issues. It directly contributes to your skill outcome of configuring network connections and ensuring optimal data flow for your business.
And to make the most of those high-capacity connections, especially in large-scale networks, we also use a technique called multiplexing. What's the core idea behind that, and why is it so vital today?
Multiplexing. It's a core concept that allows multiple signals or streams of data to travel simultaneously over a single transmission medium
How does it do that?
by dividing the medium into subchannels. Think of it like taking a very wide highway and painting several distinct lanes within it. This allows different cars, different data streams to travel independently but at the same time on the same road.
Okay, maximizing the use of the road.
Precisely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, multiplexing is a powerful and absolutely indispensable technique for maximizing the utility and efficiency of expensive transmission media. It's essential for the scale and complexity of today's networks.
Right.
Whether it's bundling multiple phone calls onto a single fiber optic line, enabling dozens of TV channels over a single coaxial cable, or managing multiple virtual connections over a single physical link, that's multiplexing.
So it's different from duplexing.
Yes, very different. Multiplexing dramatically increases the amount of data that can be transmitted in one direction over a single medium, whereas duplexing is about simultaneous two-way traffic flow. Without multiplexing, honestly, the global internet and modern telecommunications as we know them simply wouldn't be possible or affordable.
Okay, let's shift gears now from the maybe abstract principles of data flow to the actual physical infrastructure that makes it all possible.
The tangible stuff.
Exactly. We'll start with copper, and specifically a foundational cable type that, while mostly retired from modern local area networks, still plays a really vital role in our daily lives.
Coaxial cable.
Code.
Delts?
Yes, coaxial cable was indeed the original cabling type used for Ethernet networks way back when, in the early days of LANs.
Right.
Its unique composition is key. It has a central conductor, usually copper, surrounded by an insulating layer, then a braided or foil shield, and finally an outer protective jacket.
Okay.
This layered structure provides really superior protection against electromagnetic interference compared to just simple wires, which was, frankly, revolutionary for its time. While it's largely been replaced by twisted pair and fiber optic cables for internal LANs, it's definitely not obsolete.
So where would you still encounter coax today? And why is it important for, say, a business leader to still understand its role? Well, its most notable current use is for cable internet access and cable television installations.
The cable guy's cable.
Exactly. Often using RG6 cable with those screw-on F connectors to connect your modem or cable box to the outside world. So for anyone setting up home internet, managing small office connections that use cable, or even troubleshooting their TV service, understanding this cable is still critical.
Good.
The insight for future business leaders isn't just historical. It's about recognizing the longevity and adaptability of technology. Sometimes older specialized technologies find these enduring niche roles that are still absolutely critical to specific service delivery. It underscores the need for a comprehensive understanding of all transmission media, not just the latest and greatest.
And a close relative, twin-axial cable, has found this remarkable new purpose in the ultra-high-speed, short-distance world of modern data centers.
It has.
It's a great example of how old tech can be reinvented.
Absolutely. Twin-axial or twin-ax cable. You can think of it as a sort of dual-core version of coaxial cable. It essentially has two central conductors, enabling full duplex communication more easily.
Okay.
The really compelling story here is its modern application. It's become a very popular, cost-effective, short-distance alternative to fiber for high-speed connections, particularly 10 Gbps, but even 25, 40, 100 Gbps Ethernet within data centers.
Really? Instead of fiber?
For short distances, yes. It's frequently used for connecting things like blade servers to high-speed switches, or maybe storage servers to compute servers in those high-density rack environments. Twin-ax comes in passive versions, usually limited to about 7 meters, and active versions, which have built-in signal conditioning and can stretch up to maybe 10 meters. For students selecting appropriate networking components, understanding these specialized uses prevents misapplication. Twinax really shows how copper cabling continues to innovate for specific high-speed, short-reach needs in a data center. It demonstrates that old technology can indeed find new life, offering a strategic balance of cost, performance, and density in those environments.
Okay, now let's talk about the cable you probably interact with almost daily. The true backbone of most wired local area networks. Twisted pair Ethernet cable.
Ah, the workhorse.
The workhorse, exactly. Let's delve into what makes it so ubiquitous.
Well, this cable consists of 4 pairs of color-coded insulated copper wires. And critically, as we mentioned, they're tightly twisted around each other, usually at different rates per pair.
Right, the twisting.
The twisting is the key engineering innovation. It minimizes electromagnetic interference and crosstalk, allowing signals to travel cleanly. The number of pairs actually used depends on the Ethernet speed. For example, fast Ethernet, which is 100 millidps, only uses 2 of the 4 pairs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But gigabit Ethernet and higher speeds, they leverage all 4 pairs for optimal performance and capacity. This meticulous design is why twisted pair has become the standard for LANs.
Now, anyone who's ever bought an Ethernet cable has seen the CAT designations, CAT 5, CAT 6, CAT 6A, and so on. Let's try and navigate this alphabet soup, not just defining them, but understanding the strategic implications of choosing the right one.
Okay, this categorization system, it's defined by the TIA-EIA 568 standard, and it helps you understand a cable's performance capabilities. It's absolutely crucial for designing a future-proof network.
Right.
So for some context and practical advice, Cat 3 and Cat 5 are pretty much obsolete for modern data networking. Cat 3 supported 10 millips, Cat 5 hit 100 millips. If you find a cable with these markings, or maybe no markings at all, it's definitely time to consider replacing it, especially if your network speed needs to be above 100 millips. You're just leaving performance on the table.
Okay, awesome.
Basically, yeah. Cat 5, Category 5 Enhanced, was, well, an enhanced version of Cat 5. It was capable of supporting gigabit Ethernet speeds, sometimes up to 2.5 Gbps theoretically. It's still common in older installations, but it's definitely being phased out for new deployments.
Right.
Cat 6 is generally considered the current industry standard for new installs. It supports data rates up to 10 Gbps, but only over a shorter distance, about 55 meters. It can do 5 Gbps up to the full 100 meters. It offers improved crosstalk and interference protection, making it ideal for many high-bandwidth applications in offices and small businesses.
So Cat 6 is kind of the baseline now.
Pretty much, yeah. Cat 6A, Category 6 Augmented, offers superior performance. It reliably transmits data at speeds up to 10 Gbps over the full 100-meter distance standard for twisted pair Ethernet.
Ah, okay. That's the difference.
Big difference. It features enhanced alien crosstalk prevention techniques, which is really critical in dense high-performance network environments like data centers or wiring closet. And then you have Cat 7 and Cat 8. These are really high-end, primarily used in data centers or high-performance computing. Cat 7 is actually an ISO Y8 standard, not widely adopted in North America. Cat 8 is the TIEIA standard, supporting 25 Gbps and 40 Gbps Ethernet, but only over very limited distances, typically up to just 30 meters.
Wow, short.
Very short. These are very specific purpose cables, definitely not for general office wiring.
The real insight here, it seems, isn't just about picking the fastest cable. It's realizing that over-specifying, like installing Cat 8 for a typical office when Cat 6A would be perfectly fine, that's just a significant capital drain with almost zero return.
Absolutely.
But under-specifying could lock you into costly upgrades really soon. So
Yeah.
what's the smarter choice? How does a business leader balance future-proofing with, pragmatic current needs?
That's a crucial point for our listeners, especially relating to your design skills. Choosing the right cable category isn't just about picking the highest number, it really is a strategic decision. You have to balance current and future bandwidth needs, distance limitations, and of course, budget. Installing Cat 8 for a typical office, that might be a very expensive mistake if Cat 6A offers all the 10 Gbps performance needed now and for the foreseeable future. You'd incur higher material costs, maybe more difficult installation costs, all for capacity you'll likely never use.
Makes sense.
The key takeaway here is about smart investment. More money does not necessarily mean better performance for your specific requirements. Sometimes, for extreme needs, maybe long distances or even higher speeds, fiber is actually the more appropriate and potentially even more cost-effective solution in the long run. This ties directly into your skill outcome of selecting appropriate networking components for given requirements. It highlights those managerial issues involved in infrastructure investment and avoiding unnecessary tech debt.
Oh.
And a quick warning about deceptive marketing. Be really wary of labels like Cat6e.
Cat6e.
Yeah, no such official category exists under the TIA standards. It's a deceptive label, basically meaningless.
Yeah.
Stick to the recognized standards. Cat6, Cat6a, Cat8.
Good tip. Okay, when you look inside an Ethernet cable, you find different conductor types. Let's talk about solid versus stranded conductors. Why does choosing the wrong one sometimes lead to those frustrating intermittent problems?
Right, so Ethernet cables are constructed with either solid or stranded copper conductors. Solid cables use 8 individual solid copper conductors twisted into the 4 pairs.
Okay.
They are generally more durable, offer better heat dissipation, and critically, they support longer transmission distances with better signal integrity. This makes them the ideal choice for permanent installations, think wiring inside walls, under floors, or running through conduits, where flexibility isn't the main concern.
Right, the infrastructure wiring.
Exactly. The downside is they're much less flexible and definitely more prone to breaking if you bend them repeatedly.
And stranded cables are the opposite, I guess, more flexible.
Precisely. Stranded cables, on the other hand, consist of many fine copper hairs twisted together within each conductor. This makes the overall cable much more flexible and resilient to bending. This increased flexibility makes them ideal for patch cables, those shorter cables you use to connect devices to wall outlets, switches, or servers. Places where frequent movement, bending, or repatching is expected.
Ah, the ones you handle.
The ones you handle, yeah. However, they are suited for shorter distances, and they have slightly less efficient heat dissipation compared to solid conductors. The key practical takeaway for you is this. You should never construct frequently handled patch cords using solid copper cable.
Why not?
Because that lack of flexibility will eventually cause issues right at the terminations, where the cable meets the RJ45 connector. The solid wires can break or loosen inside the connector due to movement. This leads to intermittent connectivity problems that are incredibly difficult to diagnose and troubleshoot, impacting network uptime and user productivity. Use stranded for patch cords, solid for infrastructure runs.
God, solid for walls, stranded for patches.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Another important distinction that directly impacts noise immunity and installation complexity is whether a cable is shielded or unshielded. STP versus UTP.
Right. Unshielded twisted pair, or UTP, cables have no additional shielding beyond the basic insulation around the twisted pairs themselves.
Right.
They are the most common and generally the most cost-effective choice for LANs in residential or typical office environments where electromagnetic interference, EMI, is usually low. The inherent twisting of the pairs, as we discussed, already provides a significant amount of noise cancellation, which is often perfectly sufficient.
It's shielded.
Shielded twisted pair, or STP cables, conversely, incorporate a conductive shielding layer. This is usually a foil wrap, a braided metal shield, or sometimes both, either around all the twisted pairs together or sometimes even around individual pairs.
Okay.
This shielding provides superior protection against external EMI and crosstalk. They are recommended for environments with high electromagnetic radiation, think industrial settings, medical facilities, or places near interference sources like heavy machinery or large fluorescent light banks, where UTP might experience errors or performance degradation.
So this raises an important question for a business maybe evaluating cabling options. Are shielded cables always better? Or are there hidden downsides, maybe costs?
That's a really critical question, especially for your risk assessment skills, and the answer is not necessarily. While STP definitely offers superior noise immunity, it comes with several trade-offs.
Like what?
Increased cost, for one. Reduced flexibility that shield makes the cable stiffer, and significantly more difficult termination. You have to carefully manage and terminate the shield itself.
Oh.
And crucially, STP cables require proper grounding to be effective. If they're not grounded correctly, the shield can actually act like an antenna and make interference worse.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So for a risk assessment, if your environment is electrically quiet, UTP is perfectly adequate, it simplifies installation, and it's more cost-effective. Using STP when it's not truly needed can be an unnecessary expense and introduce its own installation and maintenance challenges. It's really about appropriate technology selection based on the environment, not just assuming more protection is always better.
That makes sense. Okay, beyond just performance, there's a vital safety and, frankly, legal compliance aspect to cabling.
Yeah.
The cable jacket ratings. Ignoring these can literally be a fire hazard and violate building codes.
Absolutely critical. Cable jacket ratings are crucial for fire safety and compliance with often stringent building codes, particularly in commercial environments. You really need to know these. CM or CMG, communications multi-purpose general, is for general indoor use, like horizontal runs within a single floor. It offers no special fire resistance.
Basic stuff.
Basic stuff. CMR, communications multi-purpose riser. Cables are fire resistant and specifically designed for vertical cable runs in risers or shafts between floors. They're built to prevent fire from spreading upwards through those vertical pathways, recommended for most residential and many commercial vertical installations.
Okay, for going between floors.
Right. CMP, communications multi-purpose plenum cables, meet the most stringent requirements. These are designed for use in air handling spaces, like plenums, the space above a drop ceiling or below a raised floor, used for air circulation or inside air duct.
Why the special rating there?
Because if there's a fire, you don't want the burning cable jacket releasing toxic fumes and smoke that then gets circulated throughout the building by the HVAC system. Plenum cables produce minimal smoke and toxic fumes, often using a Teflon-based jacket. They are essential for these critical areas to protect building occupants.
Wow. Okay.
And then there's CMX, Communications Multi-Purpose Residential. These are for residential installations, but they only pass a simple vertical flame test. They offer minimal fire resistance compared to CMR or CMP.
So what does this all mean for a business and its kind of managerial responsibilities? It sounds like using the wrong jacket rating is a huge liability.
It is a huge liability. Mislabeling, or more critically, misapplying these ratings can lead to significant safety risks, serious legal liabilities, and potentially catastrophic fire damage for businesses. Understanding these classifications is a critical part of designing a compliant and safe network infrastructure, especially when you're developing a physical design for a new building or a renovation. It's a managerial issue of paramount importance. It ties directly into your ability to formulate a risk assessment and ensure the safety and compliance of your physical network installation. You absolutely have to get this right.
Okay, the RJ45 connector. That's the familiar sight, the plug on the end of the Ethernet cable. Anyone who's plugged one in knows it. But there's more to it than just shoving it into a port, isn't there?
There is. The RJ45 is indeed the staple 8-pin modular connector for Ethernet. It's known for its plug-and-play functionality and support for various speeds, up to 40 Gbps now with Cat 8, depending on the cable category.
Right.
It supports both half-duplex and full-duplex communication. It's important, though, to differentiate it from other common RJ registered jack connectors you might see, like the smaller 4-pin RJ22, often used for telephone handsets.
Oh yeah, the curly cord one.
Exactly. Or the 6-pin RJ11 and RJ12, commonly used for residential and business telephone lines, respectively. Knowing the difference helps avoid misconnections.
And when you're actually terminating these cables, putting that RJ45 connector on the end, you run into the TIE-IA 568A and 568B standards. What are these, and why is consistency so incredibly critical?
Right. These are the two standard wiring schemes for twisted pair Ethernet cables. They dictate the specific order and color coding of the 8 individual wires inside the RJ45 connector.
Okay, pin 1 is orange-white, pin 2 is orange, that kind of thing.
Exactly that kind of thing. Functionally, they are equivalent, meaning either T568A or T568B will work perfectly fine electrically. However, consistency is paramount. You absolutely must use the same standard, either A or B, on both ends of a standard straight-through cable.
Right.
And ideally, you should maintain that same standard throughout your entire network installation, all your patch panels, all your wall jacks, everything. Mixing them up on the same cable run causes a wiring fault, usually a crossed pair, and the connection simply won't work, or it will work very poorly.
Okay, so pick one and stick with it.
Pick one, stick with it. That's the rule.
This is also where we historically saw the distinction between straight-through, crossover, and rollover cables. What were their roles, and what's changed in modern networking?
Good question. A straight-through cable, often called a patch cable, is the most common type today. It connects dissimilar devices like a PC to a switch or a switch to a router. The wiring is identical, pin 1 to pin 1, pin 2 to pin 2, etc., on both ends, following either the 568A or 568B standard consistently.
Okay.
A crossover cable was specifically designed to connect similar devices directly without needing a switch or hub in between. Think PC directly to another PC or an older switch to another older switch.
How did it do that?
It achieved this by internally reversing the transmit and receive pairs. So the transmit pins on one end connected to the receive pins on the other end and vice versa.
Ah, clever.
It was. However, crossover cables are now largely obsolete in most scenarios thanks to a technology called AutoMDIX, Automatic Medium Dependent Interface Crossover. Modern network devices with AutoMDIX can automatically detect the type of cable connected and electronically adjust their transmit and receive pins accordingly. So you can usually just use a straight-through cable for almost everything now.
That makes life easier.
It really does. And finally, a rollover cable is completely different. It's used primarily for console connections, connecting a computer's serial port, or a USB to serial adapter, to the console port on network devices like switches, routers, or firewalls.
For configuration.
Exactly. It allows direct configuration access using a terminal emulation program. The pinout is essentially reversed end-to-end, pin 1, pin 8, pin 2 to pin 7, etc. Not for data networking, strictly for management.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that improper termination is a leading cause of network issues. So attention to detail here is vital. It's not just about getting the wires in. It's about getting them right.
That's such a critical point, especially for your skill outcome of configuring network connections and applying troubleshooting techniques. What often goes wrong, causing endless headaches, is improper termination. Following T568 or T568B consistently is step 1. But then you have to ensure the outer cable jacket is properly seated under the strain relief clamp of the RJ45 connector. This prevents the delicate internal wires from being pulled out or stressed.
Okay.
And you have to make sure all 8 wires are pushed all the way to the end of the connector and are correctly pierced by the sharp metal contacts inside when you crimp it. Even a single misaligned or unpunched wire can cause intermittent connectivity, reduce speed like falling back from gigabit to 100 mPs, or a complete network failure.
Sounds tricky.
It requires precision. Using the right tools, a good crimping tool, a reliable cable stripper, and especially a dedicated cable tester is essential for this precise work. A tester can perform a wire map test to instantly verify proper termination and continuity. Neglecting this seemingly small detail can lead to hours, even days, of frustrating troubleshooting down the line.
Good advice. Okay, moving on. Power over Ethernet, or PoE. This is a really clever innovation that can significantly simplify network deployments. How does it actually work, and what's its real-world business impact?
PoE is a fantastic technology. It's a core concept that allows both electrical power and data to be transmitted simultaneously over the same standard Ethernet cable.
Wow, power and data on the same wires.
Yep, on the same copper pairs. This technology generally requires Cat5 or better copper cable. It involves 2 types of devices. PSE, power sourcing equipment. These are devices like PoE-capable network switches or mid-span injectors that provide the power onto the Ethernet cable.
Okay, the source.
And PDs, powered devices. These are the endpoints that receive both power and data over that cable. Think of things like IP security cameras, wireless access points, VoIP phones, even some thin clients or digital signage.
Here's where you really see the real-world business impact, right? This isn't just a technical convenience. It sounds like a strategic advantage for businesses.
It absolutely is. PoE simplifies infrastructure dramatically. It eliminates the need for separate power outlets and electrical wiring for each network device.
No need for an electrician at every camera location.
Exactly. This directly translates to reduced cabling complexity, significantly lower installation costs, both materials and labor, and much greater flexibility in device placement. You can put devices wherever the network cable reaches without worrying about nearby power outlets.
Right.
This enables more flexible and scalable deployments, particularly in areas where power outlets are scarce or difficult or expensive to install. Think ceilings for access points, outdoor locations for cameras, factory floors.
Okay.
And even if your existing switch doesn't support PoE natively, you can use PoE adapters, sometimes called injectors, to add power to a standard Ethernet line for a specific device.
That's handy.
Very handy. This highlights significant managerial issues. How can we optimize our infrastructure? How can we reduce operational and capital expenditure? How can we enable more flexible and rapid deployments? PoE addresses all of these. It's critical for designing a logical and physical network that supports business agility and growth. It's a prime example of smart technology reducing the total cost of ownership for network infrastructure.
Okay, moving beyond copper now, we enter the realm of light fiber optics. This really feels like the true champion for extreme speed, unparalleled bandwidth, and incredible distance. This is the technology powering the backbone of the internet itself, right?
It absolutely is. Fiber optic cable transmits data using pulses of light through a central glass or sometimes plastic fiber. It uses either lasers or LEDs as the light sources.
Okay.
Its composition is quite ingenious, really. At its heart is the core, that incredibly thin glass strand that actually carries the light signals. Surrounding the core is the cladding, which is another layer of glass but with a slightly different refractive index.
What does that do?
That difference causes the light traveling down the core to reflect internally off the core cladding boundary, essentially bouncing it back into the core and preventing the signal, the light, from leaking out. It acts like a mirror.
Ah, clever.
Then comes a plastic buffer coating for protection, often followed by robust Kevlar strands. Yes, the same stuff used in bulletproof vests for tensile strength, so you don't break the delicate glass when pulling the cable. And finally, an outer plastic sheath or jacket.
Wow, quite complex.
It is, and this sophisticated structure provides truly unparalleled benefits over copper cabling.
What are those unparalleled benefits? Beyond just the raw speed, what makes fiber such a game changer for businesses and global networks?
Well, the benefits are really transformative. First, incredibly high throughput. We're talking easily exceeding 40 GBps and pushing into terabits per second for advanced long-haul systems, just massive capacity.
Okay.
Second, very high resistance to noise. Fiber is practically immune to EMI, RFI, and crosstalk because it transmits light, not electrical signals. This makes it the ideal choice for electrically noisy industrial or medical environments where copper might struggle.
Right, no electrical interference.
None. Third, excellent security. Fiber is incredibly difficult to tap into without physically disrupting the light path, which is usually easily detectable. This makes it a preferred choice for transmitting sensitive or classified data. And finally, the ability to carry signals for much, much longer distances than copper. We're talking tens of kilometers or even hundreds for single-mode fiber before needing any kind of regeneration or repeating.
Wow.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, fiber optics are the indispensable backbone of modern telecommunication networks, massive data centers, and large campus networks. They're essential for high-speed internet, cloud services, global connectivity, everything. For students, understanding fiber's advantages is absolutely key to designing future-proof infrastructure and selecting appropriate wired components for high-demand scenarios. This aligns perfectly with your skill outcome for physical network design and selecting appropriate components.
So when we talk about fiber, we often hear about single mode and multi-mode. What's the fundamental difference between them? And when would a business choose one over the other? It sounds important for design.
It's a critical distinction. The primary difference between single-mode fiber, SMF, and multi-mode fiber, MMF, lies in the size of their core and the type of light source they use.
Okay.
SMF has a very, very small core, typically 8 to 10 microns in diameter. That's comparable to the width of a human hair.
Tiny.
Incredibly tiny. It uses expensive, high-powered lasers to transmit data. This tiny core forces the light to travel along a single direct path or mode. This minimizes signal dispersion and distortion, which is what enables transmission over those very long distances, tens or even hundreds of kilometers, without significant signal loss.
Okay.
This makes SMF ideal for backbone networks, long-haul telecommunications links between cities, and connecting geographically dispersed offices. The downside: it comes at a higher cost due to the precision required for manufacturing the fiber itself and the laser transceivers needed.
And multi-mode, how is that different?
MMF, conversely, has a much larger core, usually 50 or 62.5 microns in diameter. It typically uses less expensive LEDs, light-emitting diodes, or VCSLs, vertical cavity surface-emitting lasers, as its light source.
Okay, bigger core, cheaper light source.
Right. This larger core allows light to travel along multiple paths or modes simultaneously as it bounces down the fiber. However, this bouncing and spreading of light introduces more signal dispersion over distance, which limits its effective transmission distance to typically a few hundred meters up to maybe a couple of kilometers, depending on the fiber grade and the data rate.
Ah, so much shorter distances.
Much shorter. MMF is generally less expensive to purchase and install than SMF, and it's commonly used for shorter distance runs within buildings, within data centers, or across a campus where high bandwidth is needed, but that extreme long distance reach isn't required.
So it's a clear trade-off then between distance, cost, and the light source used. And that heavily influences your network design choices.
Exactly. For students, recognizing this trade-off is absolutely fundamental to selecting appropriate networking components for given requirements. You might, for example, see SMF used for the main connection coming into a building from the ISP, and then MMF used for the backbone cabling connecting different floors within that building. The transition point between the two might often occur at a fiber distribution panel, FDP, which serves as a centralized patching and convergence point for various fiber cables. Understanding these options is vital for designing robust, scalable networks while managing costs effectively.
And like copper, with its RJ45, fiber has a variety of connectors. But these aren't just simple plugs. You mentioned they're more like precision alignment tools.
You're absolutely right. They're highly precise instruments. Fiber optic connectors have to ensure near-perfect alignment of the fiber cores. Remember how tiny they are? Especially single mode to minimize light loss at the connection point and maximize signal transmission.
How do they do that?
The key component is the ferrule. This is usually a tiny, precisely machined ceramic or sometimes metal cylinder that holds the stripped end of the fiber perfectly centered. When you make two connectors, the ferrules align the fiber cores end to end with incredible accuracy.
Okay. What are some common types we might see?
There are several common types. SC, subscriber connector. These are square-shaped, often blue for single mode, beige for multi-mode. They have a push-pull latching mechanism. They're robust and offer good density, quite common.
Okay.
LC, lucent connector. These look like smaller versions of the SC connector, often clipped together in pairs duplex. They're very high density, making them ideal for compact patch panels and modern transceivers like SFPs. They allow you to fit many more connections in the same amount of space, which is critical in today's crowded data centers.
The small ones for density.
Exactly. ST, straight tip. These have a round bayonet-style connector that you push and twist to lock, kind of like a BNC connector on older Cokes. Once very popular, they're still reliable, but less common in new high-density installations.
Okay.
MTP-MPO, multi-fiber push-on. These are rectangular multi-fiber connectors. They house 12, 24, or even more fibers in a single ferrule. They are essential for deploying very high-speed links like 40 Gbps and 100 Gbps Ethernet in data centers, where you need to connect many fibers quickly and densely.
Wow, multiple fibers in one plug?
Yeah, it's very efficient for high bandwidth. And you might occasionally see MTRJ, mechanical transfer register jack, which is a duplex connector, mostly used for multi-mode fiber that sort of resembles an RJ45 connector.
Okay, so the choice of fiber connector, it sounds like it directly impacts your physical design and density requirements.
Yeah.
In a crowded data center, for instance, picking LC over SC could be a make-or-break decision for fitting everything in.
It absolutely is. The choice of fiber connector directly impacts your physical design and density requirements, a key skill outcome for you. LC connectors, for example, because of their small form factor, are crucial for enabling those compact, high-density patch panels and switches that are essential in modern data centers.
Right.
Their small size allows for a much greater number of connections within a limited physical footprint, like a single rack unit. This directly influences your physical design skill outcome. Each connector type offers specific advantages for different scenarios, so knowing their characteristics is essential for efficient network layout and managing valuable rack space effectively.
Another clever piece of technology in the fiber world, one that significantly impacts the economics of network upgrades, is the transceiver module. SFPs, QSFPs, things like that.
Yes, transceivers. These are modules like SFPs, small form factor pluggable, XFPs, which are slightly larger for 10 Gbps, QSFPs, quad SFP for 40 Gbps and 100 Gbps, and even larger CFPs, Centum form factor pluggable, for very high speeds.
What's so special about them?
They are typically hot swappable modules that plug into dedicated slots on switches, routers, and servers. Their job is to convert electrical signals from the device's internal circuitry into optical signals to send out over the fiber, and vice versa for incoming signals.
Okay.
Their real genius lies in modularity. They allow you to upgrade network speeds, maybe from 1 Gbps SFP to a 10 Gbps SFP plus SDEC, or 40 Gbps QSFP plus, or change fiber types, like from multimode to single mode, simply by swapping out the transceiver module, often without even needing to replace the entire switch or power it down.
So you don't have to rip out the whole expensive switch just to go faster.
Exactly. This highlights a key managerial issue: cost-effective scalability and avoiding expensive rip-and-replace upgrades or getting locked into tech debt. Transceivers enable businesses to extend the life of their existing network hardware and adapt more gracefully to evolving bandwidth demands without massive capital expenditure.
Makes sense.
It's crucial, though, to avoid a transceiver mismatch. You have to ensure that the modules you select are compatible with the specific port on your network device, match the supported speeds and protocols, and are designed for the type of fiber cable, SMF or MMF, and distance you're using. But overall, it's an investment strategy that keeps your network agile and adaptable.
Even with light-speed transmission, fiber isn't entirely without its own quirks and common problems. What are some of the unique challenges we face specifically with fiber optic cabling?
That's true. While it's incredibly robust in many ways, fiber does have its own set of unique vulnerabilities you need to be aware of. Common fiber cable problems include fiber type mismatch. This happens if you accidentally try to connect a single-mode fiber to a multi-mode fiber, or vice versa, maybe using a coupler. Because the core sizes are so different, the connection simply won't work effectively, leading to massive signal loss.
Okay, gotta match the types.
Definitely. Wavelength mismatch. Fiber systems operate at specific wavelengths of light, like 850 millimeter, 1310 millimeter, 1550 millimeter. If the transceivers at each end are designed for different wavelengths, they won't be able to communicate.
Right.
A surprisingly frequent and damaging issue is dirty connectors. Even a tiny speck of dust, oil from a fingerprint, or other contaminant on the ferrule end face, often invisible to the naked eye, can block or scatter the light signal significantly. Think of trying to shine a flashlight through a dirty window pane.
Wow, dust can really mess it up.
Absolutely. It's a major cause of poor performance and requires specialized cleaning tools and procedures. Finally, you can have link loss or excessive attenuation. This occurs when the optical signal doesn't reach the receiver with sufficient power to be correctly interpreted. This can be caused by the link being too long for the transceivers and fiber type, having too many splices or connectors adding up loss, or even excessive bends in the cable that cause light to escape. We call that macro bending loss.
Oh.
These problems are really unique to fiber and require specialized attention, often specialized tools like fiber microscopes and optical power meters to diagnose and fix properly. They can be quite subtle but cause significant signal degradation or complete link failure.
All right, let's talk troubleshooting. When the network inevitably goes down, or performance just tanks, it can feel like looking for a needle in a haystack sometimes.
Oh yeah, panic sets in.
Where do you even start? What are the absolute first steps for any professional facing a network issue?
It truly can feel overwhelming. But as a network professional, you always begin with the basics initial triage. First step, look at the lights.
The blinking lights.
The blinking lights. Check the network connection LED status indicators on the devices involved, the user's computer network card, NIC, the switch port it's plugged into, the router, the modem. Are they lit? What color are they? Usually green for good, maybe amber for a lower speed, or off entirely. This gives you an immediate visual clue about basic connectivity and link status.
Okay, check the lights. What next?
Next, physically verify the connections. Check that the cable is securely plugged in at both ends. Is it the right port? Sometimes things get unplugged accidentally. Also, verify that the device's network interface card, NIC, is enabled in the operating system.
Simple stuff, but easy to overlook.
Very easy. Most efficient troubleshooting eventually involves dedicated tools, absolutely. But these fundamental, physical, and visual checks are your absolute first line of defense. Ensuring everything is properly connected and powered on can surprisingly resolve a large percentage of common network issues. It's all about not overcomplicating things right from the start and systematically ruling out the simplest explanations first.
And once you've done those basic physical checks, there's a more systematic approach to follow, right? A methodology honed by IT pros. This is where your troubleshooting skills really come into play.
Absolutely. A methodical approach is key to diagnosing network issues efficiently, and this directly contributes to your skill outcome of applying appropriate network troubleshooting techniques. Here's a typical flow. 1. Check hardware. Again, more thoroughly. We mentioned physical connections. Also, ensure devices are powered on. A classic step is to power cycle the relevant equipment, the modem, the router, the switch, if accessible, and the user's PC. Critically, when you power cycle, leave each device off for at least 60 seconds before restarting it.
Why so long?
That ensures capacitors discharge fully and all temporary configurations or error states in memory are cleared, giving you a truly clean reset. Don't just quickly flick it off and on.
Good tip. 60 seconds.
60 seconds. 2. Check IP configuration, ifconfig. Open the command prompt, Windows or terminal, Linux, Mac OS. Run ipconfig on Windows or ifconfig or ifaddrt on Linux, Mac OS. Look at the computer's IP address, subnet mask, and default gateway. Is it getting a valid IP address from your network, like 192.168.1.x or 10.x.x.x, or does it have a 169.254.x.x address?
What does 169.254 mean?
That's an APIPA address, automatic private IP addressing. It means the computer couldn't reach the DHCP server, usually your router, to get a proper IP address. It basically assigned itself a temporary non-routable address. If you see this, try running ipconfig release followed by ipconfig renew on Windows to force it to request a new IP address.
A critical diagnostic step here. If plugging your PC directly into the modem works fine, but plugging into the router doesn't, then your router is almost certainly the point of failure.
Okay, isolate the problem. It's exactly. 3. Test connectivity. Ping and traceroute. If you have a valid IP address, the next step is to test basic network reachability using ping. Try pinging your default gateway first, the router's IP address found via ipconfig. If that works, try pinging a reliable external server like Google's public DNS server. Ping 8.8.8.8.
Why 8.8.8?
It's a well-known, highly available IP address that doesn't rely on DNS working. If you can pin 8.8.8.8, you know your basic internet connection is up. If you can't ping your gateway, the problem is likely between your PC and your router. If you can ping the gateway but not 8.8.8, the problem is likely between your router and the internet, maybe the modem or ISP. If pinging an IP address like 8.8.8 works, but pinging a domain name like pinggoogle.com fails, that points towards a DNS issue.
Okay. Layered testing.
It's very layered. Then use tracer 8.8.8.8 Windows or traceroute 8.8.8 Linux, Mac OS. This command shows you the step-by-step hops your data takes across the internet to reach the destination. Each hop is a router along the path. If the trace fails or shows high latency at a certain hop, it helps pinpoint where the network problem lies. Is it close to you, within your ISP's network, or further out?
Like a roadmap of the connection.
Exactly. 4. Check DNS. And NSLookup. If you suspect a domain name system issue, like ping google.com failing but ping 8.8.8.8 working, use the in-isolookup command. Try nslookup google.com. It should return the IP addresses associated with that domain name. If it returns errors like timed out or server failure or maybe gives incorrect results, it confirms a problem with the DNS server your computer is configured to use. You might need to switch DNS servers. 5. Contact ISP. If all your local checks consistently fail, you've power cycled, checked IPs, pings to external addresses fail, Trecent fails early, it's time to contact your internet service provider or check their service status website or outage maps. The issue might be a wider problem in your area that's completely beyond your control.
Right. Rule out your own stuff first.
Always. 6. Security checks. Don't forget security software. Verify that your antivirus, firewall, or other security software isn't inadvertently blocking network functions. Sometimes an update or a rule change can interfere with legitimate network traffic. Try temporarily disabling it, if safe to do so, for testing.
Good point.
7. Review application database logs. If the network connectivity seems okay at a basic level, pings work, etc., but specific applications are failing or slow, the issue might be higher up the stack. Check server logs, application logs, or database logs for errors that might indicate problems impacting network performance from the application layer itself rather than the network infrastructure.
So applying these systematic techniques, that's really a core skill outcome for our listeners, isn't it? It's about methodically narrowing down the problem from the physical layer right up to the application layer, ensuring you're not just chasing ghosts or wasting valuable time on fixes that won't work.
It absolutely is. This methodical approach is critical. It allows any network professional to efficiently diagnose and resolve issues, minimizing downtime and the associated business costs. It's a truly foundational skill for managing and configuring network connections effectively.
Beyond the specific technical steps, successful troubleshooting, especially in a business context, is also about strategy and overall management, right? What are some of the best practices for network professionals to keep everything running smoothly? Maybe even prevent problems.
Indeed. For network professionals and future business leaders managing IT, effective troubleshooting goes beyond just fixing things when they break. Proactive network management involves several best practices. 1. Collect information methodically, as we discussed for troubleshooting, but also for documentation. Always distinguish symptoms, what the user sees, from potential root causes. Gather enough detailed information from users, error logs, network diagnostics to truly understand the baseline and any deviations before assuming there's a problem or attempting fixes. Don't jump to conclusions based on incomplete data.
Right. Understand before acting.
Exactly. 2. Customize and review logs actively. Don't just let logs accumulate. Ensure your event logs, security logs, and application logs are configured to provide clear, useful, time-stamped information about critical events, not just a confusing flood of routine data. Regularly reviewing these logs can help spot trends or potential issues before they cause major outages. Proactive logging aids immensely in quickly pinpointing issues when they do occur and understanding historical performance. 3. Check access controls and security posture regularly. Periodically verify user permissions, firewall rules, and antivirus security software settings. Ensure no unauthorized changes have occurred that might impact network access or performance, and that security settings aren't inadvertently blocking necessary functions after updates. 4. Establish a clear escalation framework. This is crucial for any business. Having a clear escalation framework with defined roles, responsibilities, and procedures for issue resolution is paramount. Who handles what type of issue? When is it escalated? To whom? This avoids wasted time, ensures problems are handled by the appropriate personnel with the right skills, and prevents frustrated users from being shuffled around without resolution.
Good point. Prevents chaos.
5. Utilize proactive monitoring tools. For any business or enterprise environment, relying solely on manual troubleshooting is often inefficient and purely reactive. Investing in network monitoring tools like SolarWinds Network Performance Monitor or similar platforms is invaluable.
What do those tools do?
They establish a baseline of what normal network behavior looks like for your specific environment. Then, they provide advanced, real-time alerts for anomalies or major issues before users start calling. They can often visualize your entire network topology, even showing the path traffic takes across the internet with features like NetPath. This transforms IT from reactive firefighting into strategic network management, crucial for maintaining reliability, performance, and helping you predict future capacity needs. This really highlights important managerial issues in data communications, turning IT into a proactive business asset rather than just a cost center.
Okay, now, when you're dealing specifically with physical cabling issues, especially those deeper, more elusive problems, you often need specialized tools beyond just the command line software. These are the tools that really separate the pros from the amateurs, right?
That's absolutely right. For deep-level physical layer troubleshooting, actually testing the wires and fibers themselves, you need specific hardware tools. Toner and probe kit. This kit includes 2 parts: a tone generator, toner, and a tone locator, probe. You attach the toner to one end of an unknown cable in a bundle or patch panel. It sends an electrical signal that generates an audible tone. You then use the probe near the other ends of the cables. It will pick up the tone loudest on the correct cable, allowing you to identify that specific cable run out of potentially dozens or hundreds.
For finding the right wire in a mess.
Exactly. A crucial caution, though. Never use a toner on a live network cable that's plugged into active equipment. It transmits electricity and could damage sensitive network ports. It only identifies a cable. It cannot test its characteristics or quality.
Okay, identification only, non-live wires.
Right.
Yeah.
Multimeter. This is a versatile electronic measurement tool. It measures voltage, current, and resistance. In networking, it can be used to check for unwanted voltage, noise on copper lines, test for continuity is the wire broken, detect short circuits, where 2 conductors are touching inappropriately, or open circuits, a break in a conductor. It helps verify if a cable is physically intact and conducting electricity properly. Cable continuity tester, often called a wire map tester, for copper. These are relatively basic testers designed for twisted pair cables. They verify electrical continuity for each wire, but more importantly, they check for correct T568AB termination. They detect common wiring faults like reversed pairs, crossed pairs, or split pairs by lighting up LEDs in sequence for each pin. A quick way to confirm a cable is wired correctly end-to-end, again, do not use on live cables, for fiber. Simple fiber continuity testers just emit a light pulse down the fiber to verify the signal reaches the other end. A more useful tool is a visual fault locator, VFL. This is essentially a powerful, visible laser pointer designed for fiber. You plug it into one end of a fiber cable, and it projects a visible red laser light down the core. If there's physical damage, like a break, a crack, or an excessively tight bend in the fiber, the bright red light will escape at that point, allowing you to visually pinpoint the exact location of the fault along the cable run. Very handy.
Wow, you can actually see the break.
You can see the red glow or the lights leaking out. Cable performance tester, sometimes called a certification tool. Now we're getting into the more sophisticated, high-end tools. These are used to measure the overall performance of the entire cabling system, cable connectors, patch panels, against specific industry standards like Cat6a standards. TDR, time domain reflectometer. This is specifically for copper cables. It sends a high-frequency electrical pulse down the cable and then precisely measures the time it takes for reflections of that pulse to bounce back from imperfections or the end of the cable. Based on the timing and nature of the reflections, it can accurately determine the cable's length, locate the distance to faults like breaks, shorts, or impedance mismatches along the cable run. OTDR, optical time domain reflectometer. This is the fiber optic equivalent of a TDR. It sends pulses of laser light down the fiber and analyzes the light that's scattered or reflected back from points along the fiber. It can characterize the entire fiber length, measure signal loss at splices and connectors, identify breaks, and determine the overall length and quality of the fiber run, often over very long distances.
These sound like serious tools.
They are essential for professionals. OPM, optical power meter. This tool is specifically for fiber. It measures the amount of light power being received at the end of a fiber optic cable, usually measured in dBm. You use it in conjunction with a known light source at the other end. It's crucial for verifying that the receiver is getting a strong enough signal within the acceptable loss budget for the link to operate reliably. Too much loss means errors or no connection.
Wow. Okay, so while these high-end tools, like the ones from Fluke Networks or similar companies, can definitely be expensive, they sound indispensable for professional cable installers and serious IT teams. They need them to certify installations meet industry standards, right?
Absolutely indispensable for certification, yes.
And for our listeners, aiming for that values outcome of preparing for industry certification exams like Network plus Media 10, understanding the utility and application of these tools is paramount, even if you don't own one yourself yet.
Exactly. You need to know what they do and why they're used. They are critical for guaranteeing installation quality, ensuring long-term network reliability, and efficiently troubleshooting complex physical layer problems. Without them, especially the certification tools, you're essentially just guessing if a cable run truly meets performance specs. These tools underpin the reliability and performance of modern high-speed networks and demonstrate a commitment to quality workmanship.
Okay, our cables are great, our troubleshooting tools are excellent, but as you said, no system is perfect. What happens when errors inevitably creep into our data during transmission? How do we ensure data integrity, make sure the data arrives exactly as it was sent?
That's a fundamental challenge in data communications. Data, especially when traveling as electrical or optical signals, is inherently susceptible to noise, interference, attenuation, and other anomalies during transmission. These can cause bits to flip a 0, randomly becoming a 1, or a 1 becoming a 0. If these errors are left uncorrected, or worse, undetected, the corrupted data becomes unusable. This can lead to serious operational failures, incorrect calculations, financial discrepancies, failed transactions, even security vulnerabilities or legal issues depending on the application. So, error detection is the crucial process of identifying whether errors have occurred during transmission.
How does it work?
It generally works by adding redundant data, often called error detection codes or check bits, to the original message before transmission. The receiver then performs a calculation using the received data and these redundant bits. Based on the result, it can determine with a high degree of probability whether the data was corrupted during transit.
So what kinds of errors are we actually looking for? How do bits typically get flipped?
There are a few key types of errors we categorize. Single bit error. As the name suggests, only one binary digit within a given data unit, like a byte or packet, is altered from 0 to 1 or 1 to 0. These are actually less common in high-speed serial transmissions than burst errors, but they can occur due to transient noise spikes.
Okay, just one bit wrong.
Right, multiple bit error. Here, more than one bit in the data unit is altered, but they aren't necessarily consecutive. This might happen in environments with more persistent or widespread interference.
Right, burst error. This is where two or more consecutive bits in the data unit are altered. This is a very common type of error in serial data transmissions, often caused by a longer duration noise spike or fading signal. The length of the burst is measured from the first corrupted bit to the last corrected bit, even if some bits in between that burst happen to be correct by chance. Okay, so burst errors are common. How do we actually detect these different types of errors? What are the common techniques that protect our data from corruption?
We use several common techniques, each offering different levels of complexity, overhead, and accuracy. Parity check, single and two-dimensional. This is the simplest and oldest method. In single parity, a single extra bit, the parity bit, is added to each block of data, like a byte. The value of this parity bit is set so that the total count of ones in the block, including the parity bit, is either always even parity or always odd parity, depending on the agreed upon scheme.
Right.
The receiver counts the ones in the received block. If the count doesn't match the expected parity, even or odd, it knows an error occurred. While simple and very low overhead, just one extra bit per block, its accuracy is quite limited, maybe around 50% effective overall. Why? Because it can only reliably detect single-bit errors. If two bits flip, the parity might still appear correct, and the error goes completely undetected. Two-dimensional parity Using parity bits for rows and columns of data improves this slightly, but still has significant blind spots for certain error patterns.
So cheap but not very reliable.
Exactly. The hidden cost here, for a business relying on this, is the significant potential for undetected errors to corrupt financial data, critical commands, or operational logs, leading to compliance nightmares, incorrect decisions, or even financial ruin if used inappropriately. Checksum. This method is a step up. It involves dividing the data into segments, for example, 16-bit words, adding their binary values together using one's complement arithmetic, and then complementing the final sum to create the checksum, which is appended to the data. The receiver performs the same calculation on the received data segments, including the received checksum. If the final result after adding everything up and complementing is all zeros, the data is likely accepted as correct.
More complex, better accuracy.
More complex, yes, and generally more accurate than simple parity, perhaps around 90% effective against typical errors. However, it can still miss certain error patterns where multiple errors cancel each other out in the sum. It's commonly used in higher-level protocols like TCP/IP for a lightweight integrity check, cyclic redundancy check, CRC. Now, this is by far the most robust and widely used error detection method in modern data communications, especially at the data link layer like Ethernet. It's based on binary division using polynomial mathematics, which sounds scary but is very efficient in hardware.
Okay. Polynomial math.
Basically, a sequence of redundant bits, the CRC bits or frame check sequence, FCS, is calculated based on the data block and appended to it. This calculation ensures that the entire resulting frame, data plus CRC, is exactly divisible by a pre-agreed binary number represented as a generator polynomial. The receiver divides the entire incoming frame by that same generator polynomial. If the remainder of the division is 0, the data is accepted as error-free with very high probability. If the remainder is non-zero, an error is detected.
This is much better.
Much, much better. CRC is highly effective, capable of detecting over 99.99% of common burst errors, especially those up to the length of the CRC field itself. IRG CRC32 can detect burst errors up to 32 bits long. It's widely used in Ethernet frames, Wi-Fi, storage systems like hard drives and SSDs, file compression formats like ZIP. Pretty much everywhere reliable data transmission is needed.
So CRC sounds like the real gold standard for robust error detection without adding excessive overhead.
It absolutely is often considered the sweet spot in that trade-off. For your skill outcome of formulating risk assessment and security strategy, understanding how these different techniques protect data integrity against corruption is crucial. You need to know which mechanisms are used by the technologies you deploy and understand their strengths and limitations, especially in financially sensitive or mission-critical applications where data accuracy is absolutely paramount. Relying on weaker methods like simple parity in those contexts would be a significant and likely unacceptable business risk.
Are there even more advanced techniques? Perhaps for environments where retransmitting data after detecting an error isn't feasible, or where near-perfect accuracy is absolutely non-negotiable, like space communication.
Yes, absolutely. Especially in highly demanding or constrained environments, we move beyond simple detection to error correction, forward error correction, FEC. Unlike the methods we just discussed, which only detect errors, requiring the sender to retransmit, FEC sends additional redundant data along with the original message. This extra data is specifically calculated and structured in a way that allows the receiver not just to detect errors, but actually to correct a certain number of errors on the fly, without needing any retransmission from the sender.
Wow, it can fix the errors itself.
Up to a certain limit, yes. This is crucial in situations where retransmission is impossible, like deep space probes with huge delays, highly inefficient, like satellite links, or undesirable, like one-way broadcasts or real-time streaming. Examples of powerful FEC codes include Reed-Solomon codes used in QR codes, CDs, DVDs to recover data from scratches or defects, turbo codes, famous for deep space missions and early mobile standards, and LDPC, low-density parity check codes, which are widely used in modern Wi-Fi, digital television broadcasting, and satellite communications. Hybrid automatic repeat request, HRQ. This technique cleverly combines the efficiency of retransmission, ARQ, automatic repeat request, where the receiver sends acknowledgments like ACKs or NACKs with the power of error correction, FEC. The receiver sends acknowledgments, ACKs, for correctly received data packets. If a packet is received with errors that FEC cannot correct, the receiver sends a negative acknowledgment, NACK, requesting retransmission. But often, HRQ systems allow the receiver to store the bad packet and combine it with the retransmitted packet to improve the chances of successful decoding. It might only need certain corrupted bits retransmitted, not the whole packet, making it very efficient. HRQ is vital in modern mobile networks like 4G and 5G, significantly improving the reliability and data rates of wireless communications in challenging radio environments.
This raises an important question again about trade-offs. More redundancy for correction must mean more overhead.
Right, and
But
you need
yeah,
100% accuracy, especially in those really demanding environments.
exactly. That's the fundamental trade-off. More redundancy, especially for powerful FEC schemes, means transmitting more data than the original message, which increases overhead and reduces the raw data rate. However, it offers incredible accuracy and resilience, making communication possible and reliable in environments where it otherwise wouldn't be, like noisy wireless channels or long-distance satellite links.
Right.
These advanced techniques clearly illustrate why accuracy is one of the 4 fundamental characteristics we look for in effective data communication systems, alongside delivery, timeliness, and jitter control. These error control mechanisms underpin the reliability of nearly every digital interaction you have today, from making a clear phone call on your mobile, to streaming video without glitches, to conducting secure online banking transactions. They make our highly connected digital world trustworthy and functional. #outro. Wow, what an incredible deep dive that was.
We've also highlighted just how essential proper installation practices, systematic troubleshooting methodologies, and robust error detection and correction mechanisms are in creating resilient and reliable communication systems. All of this knowledge prepares you directly for industry certifications and the real-world challenges you'll face in configuring network connections and designing robust, effective solutions.
We started way back by considering a world without that seamless interconnectedness, remember? That business nightmare of constant disruption.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully you have a much better appreciation for the silent heroes, the cables themselves, the protocols governing them, the specialized tools, and the expert methodologies that make that seamless, reliable digital world possible. They enable everything from your smart coffee maker in the morning to complex global enterprise networks, ensuring your business stays connected, competitive, and resilient.
And if you found this deep dive valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share it with your peers or colleagues. Your engagement truly helps us bring more of these essential insights to future business and IT leaders like yourselves, empowering you to own your career growth and embrace that crucial lifelong learning mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget to check the description below for those additional resources we mentioned. They'll help further your understanding and assist you in applying this knowledge in your studies and your future careers.
So as you move forward, maybe designing the networks of tomorrow, or just troubleshooting the one in front of you, always remember this. Strong connections aren't just technical, they're strategic. Until next time, keep your packets clean and your networks resilient.
Happy networking.